Dr. Samer Attar is an orthopedic surgeon in Chicago, a professor of surgery at Northwestern, and recently among the brave volunteers fighting for life in the war in Gaza. Gaza is 25 miles long and home to 2 million Palestinians, descendants of those displaced in the 1948 creation of Israel. Gaza is ruled by a terrorist group called Hamas, and in 2023, Hamas attacked Israel, an atrocity that Israel says killed 1,200 civilians, including 40 children, and captured 251. Israel's war to free its hostages and defeat Hamas has killed an estimated 50,000 Palestinians, 15,000 of them children, according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. The UN says 92% of Gaza housing has been damaged. Last week on 60 Minutes, Leslie Stahl reported on the trauma and torture suffered by Israeli hostages. Tonight, we have the story of the desperate fight to save Gaza's civilians through the charity of nations and the mercy of volunteers like Samer Attar.
The story will continue in a moment.
That's Dr. Attar, battling a stalled heart. The patient is a paramedic. An explosion near his ambulance killed his partner. But it's not just the paramedics. Healthcare itself is dying in Gaza, with 33 hospitals damaged and the rest starved of supplies.
Imagine 50 people showing up all at once. And 15 of them are dead on arrival. And they're all trying to get into the emergency room, and there's no place to step. And there's not enough beds, so you're working and resuscitating and operating on patients on floors smeared with dirt and blood. And you'd see just little kids shredded and twisted, their insides falling out, dismembered, missing arms and legs. I remember one little girl just pounding her fists on the floor, just refusing to believe that her mom was dead, but they had to just forcefully pull her away to make room for incoming wounded, because the pace of the wounded just doesn't stop. They keep coming.
When these patients come into the emergency room, what is it that you don't have?
There's no sterility. Anesthesia is kind of a luxury sometimes. We had 2 kids come in, 2 young kids involved in an explosion. One was missing skin over half of his body. The other one, we did an emergency amputation of his leg. Both could have been saved. They were both brothers, but I remember the anesthesia doctor on the phone begging the blood bank for blood. And there's only so much blood to give, and the blood bank said, sorry, we don't have any more to give you. We just can't give you any more. And it was a Palestinian doctor. He collapsed to the ground crying, and he said he can't take it anymore because he's lost so many kids for something as simple as a blood transfusion. And that kid we just sat back and helplessly watched him die on the operating room table. And his brother was the same story. He could have been saved, but we didn't have blood. And he died the next day.
When anesthesia is a luxury, what do?
You say you're sorry a lot. It's not something you ever really want to be involved in.
This is a gentleman that showed up with an explosive injury to his hand.
Samer Attar is 49. His parents were Syrian doctors who immigrated to the U.S. in the 60s. How many trips in does this make for you?
This is number 4.
We met Dr. Attar in 2016 as he volunteered in the Syrian war. He's also worked in Ukraine. This was his 5th mission to Gaza on rotations that last 2 or 3 weeks.
The bombs land so close, you feel the hospital shaking. At times, the fighting and conflict is so intense, you feel like the hospital is going to collapse on top of you. And there have been instances of hospitals that were attacked, that were invaded. So there's really no safe space.
Gaza medical facilities and ambulances have been attacked 670 times, according to the UN.
When our troops open this closet here...
But the Israeli military says Hamas uses hospitals for shelter and arsenals. Dr. Attar has worked in 5 Gaza hospitals. The Israelis would tell you that they are attacking these facilities when they do because Hamas is using them as command and control centers.
I just saw doctors and nurses and patients. I didn't see any tunnels. I didn't see any uniformed Hamas soldiers. I didn't see any hostages. If I did, I would have said and done something about it, but I didn't.
As for the paramedic we saw earlier, Dr. Attar did restart his heart, but he doesn't know if the man lived. The doctor can't keep up with so many wounded. It occurs to me that you have all of these patients in your memory, and you never find out what happened to them.
Yeah, I remember all of them.
A few of his patients are evacuated. Israel has permitted a total of about 7,000 through its blockade. More than 300 children were medevaced by the Gulf state of Qatar in an act of charity that saw the patients escape the poorest place on earth for one of the richest. Qatar's $8 billion Sidra Hospital opened a ward for the Gaza children. Dr. Mansour Ali is head of surgery. How important was it to some of these patients to get out of Gaza?
Some of these patients is life and death situation, because if they stayed there, they would have died from complication of their injuries, from wound infection and septic shocks and things. They could have died.
One of those saved is 2-year-old Sanad. Sanad's grandmother, Marwa al-Arabi, told us that their neighborhood was bombed 1 year ago. Sanad's face and tongue were torn apart. He lost one arm. 11 people were killed, she told us, including my uncle, my brother-in-law, and my daughter's children. All my children were injured. The first time that you saw Sanad after he was injured, what did you see? I was hysterical. The sight was so horrifying. I didn't think he would survive. I thought he was taking his last breath. Sanad and the others have been recovering in Qatar about a year. How many of you lost your home? Almost all of you. How many of you lost one of your parents? This girl suffered a traumatic head injury, repaired with a plate in her skull. They bombed my grandfather's house, she told us. I was about to leave the house when a piece of shrapnel hit my head. 2 of my brothers were killed, along with my grandfather and grandmother. 15-year-old Lama told us that she was unconscious in a Gaza hospital for a week. I didn't know what had happened, she said. I learned my leg was amputated. It was a month before I learned that my sister and brother had been killed.
Take off your shoes, okay?
Many of the children are patients of Dr. Lisa Thornton, Chief of Pediatric Rehabilitation at Sidra.
This was my first time ever having any experience with war trauma. I'm from Chicago. I've seen a lot of trauma, a lot of violent trauma, but I had never seen anything like this.
What can you do to rehabilitate them?
Our goal is to get them back to childhood. And really, the primary occupation of childhood is play. So we want to be able to get these kids back to being able to play.
But if you have a child with multiple amputations, how can you achieve that?
First of all, we're blessed that children are resilient, right? So if they're not in pain and they can move, they often figure it out. I had one young man who, sadly, both of his arms were blown off. So he had amputations here at the shoulders. And he was 9 years old. And within a few weeks, he was using his feet.
What has he been able to do with his feet?
Well, he can feed himself. He can write a little bit, because you can hold a pen with your toes. It's pretty amazing.
This is that young man steering a scooter and remembering the joy of play. What gives you hope?
Well, the kids, the children give me hope. I mean, they're playful and they're energetic and they're surviving. I believe that the human spirit is incredible, and the spirit of children is more than any of us have as adults.
For every child that is evacuated from Gaza, how many are left behind who need that kind
Thousands.
of care?
Thousands.
Those were the patients in the mind of Samaritar when we met in Qatar. He told us many that he recalls were not wounded at all, but starving because of the blockade.
I remember a kid called Karam. He was suffering from significant malnutrition. There just wasn't enough food and water where his mom was at, and he was in the ICU. And his mom asked me to come meet him. And I started talking to her, and then the nurses told me that Karam had been dead for over an hour. Mom just refused to let the nurses take away his body. And she kept showing me videos of what he used to look like and how he was so playful and how he was so kind, and she just couldn't believe that because they didn't have enough food and water, he didn't make it.
Israel's prime minister has said his country ensures humanitarian assistance reaches those in need. But the UN says Gaza is at risk of famine, and 2 million are homeless. Thousands have protested in Gaza, calling for the end of the Hamas regime. There's a lot of suffering.
Yeah, I can't stop bombs. I can't rescue hostages. I can't solve this crisis. I can't repair the world, but I can stand next to you. I can live amongst you. I can share your grief. I can feel your fear. I can serve your community. I can bear witness to your suffering, and then just make some noise about it. And it's not much, but it beats burying your head in hatred and violence and ignorance. This violence began with the attack on Israel. In a 2-month ceasefire earlier this year, many Israeli hostages were released, but Israel believes 24 living hostages remain. In our story last week, former hostages told Leslie Stahl of torture. Yarden Bibas spoke of Hamas terrorists murdering his wife and 2 children in cold blood. Now, Israel is pressing its military campaign and has cut off nearly all food and humanitarian aid. In the 19th month of suffering, there is no end in sight.